Well, hi everyone. Thank you so much for coming out, and a special thanks to all of my panelists, and of course to Vivace, who really helped me make all of this happen. So thank you.
You are so welcome.
I'm super excited to have all of you with us today. We're going to talk today about how to manage stress in today's market, and we have an incredible group of people that will speak into different aspects of that subject. So first, let me introduce the one and only Vivace Maxvictor.
Woohoo! Thank you. I love this.
I told her I'm like starstruck.
I told her she's really funny.
Vivace was featured on Bravo's $1 Million Listing, Netflix, Buying Beverly Hills of The Agency, been featured on Fox Biz, Fox News, Newsmax, Crime TV, Court TV, and multiple magazine publications. She has a bachelor's and master's in biology, graduated from Cornell Medical School as surgical PA. 12 years ago, you left your career in medicine.
So I could be with all of you.
And became a life coach, and
Yeah.
we are all really grateful you made that change.
Thank you.
You've been coaching some of the top real estate agents, coaching clients in all kinds of fields, tech, finance, law, medicine, C-suite execs, as well as international clients. Vivace is also my personal coach, and I am so grateful to her and to our work together. I've grown exponentially, professionally and personally, due to our work together, so eternal gratitude to you.
I have grown from working with you, so thank you.
Aww.
It's true. It's true. Can I just do a fun fact?
Yes.
This is a little bit of disclosure. Do you give me permission?
Yeah, go ahead.
Her laughter on fucking coaching calls is so infectious. We'll talk and she'll be like, I love it. I live for your laughter on coaching calls. Literally, I see your name on the schedule and I'm like, I know I'm going to laugh at 2 o'clock.
Definitely.
I love
that's
it.
What we're going to do a lot today.
Yes.
Have fun and laugh together.
Yes.
And of course, she coaches some of the top real estate agents in New York City.
Thank you.
So that's Vivace.
Thank you for having me. Hi.
Aaron, go ahead and you can introduce yourself.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I've known Vivace probably 10 years maybe at this point. I don't want to date myself, but I've had the opportunity of working with her before, and I totally agree. She's fantastic, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you for making me aware of this. I've been in the commercial real estate business for a long time now, 23 years.
Wow.
And it's been a nice sort of combination of both as a sales person on the front lines as an office leasing broker, but also as a sales leader, which is really where my passion lies. Working predominantly with a lot of our younger brokers at Cushman & Wakefield, which is obviously everyone knows a large commercial real estate services firm. And guiding them through COVID, which has been a really interesting process and beyond. Most recently, I got back into brokerage. I got recruited from one of our leading teams to really be on the front lines again. And it's been obviously a really interesting time in the commercial real estate business. You can't pick up the Wall Street Journal or any newspaper for that matter without reading probably something negative about what's going on. So I think it's a really great time to be talking about, thinking about stress and mental well-being and physical well-being too.
Definitely. So thank you so much for being here.
Sure.
We really want to hear more about that.
Thank you.
In a little bit.
Al?
Al?
Okay, we'll skip over to me. Hey, good evening. I'm Al Diaz.
The Al Diaz.
The Al Diaz. And I also have the privilege of having worked with Vivace. And I don't refer to her as the life coach. I refer to her as the results girl. She's definitely helped me gain some results over the last year or so that I've been working with her. So I thank you for that.
Thank you.
What to say? I'm a New York City kid, born and raised here in New York City, and I work in mortgage banking, the mortgage banking space for almost 20 years now. I do mainly residential mortgages for people looking to obtain their first home, very well versed in the condo co-op market. Buying your first home is a very stressful and emotional process, right? Half the time, I would say more than half the time, maybe 75 or 80% of the time is spent, dealing with the person and the emotion behind buying their first place, right? So it is an emotional time. It's good to go ahead and tame that stress, you know, to bring them down to the level and say, hey, everything's going to be okay. When it's meant for you, it's meant for you. So that's what I have tonight. I thank you to be here.
Welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm super excited. This is where we start to go rogue. I am Bridgette. I am a fitness instructor, personal trainer here in New York City. I'm also a musical theater person, so I have a lot of that coming at you tonight with managing stress and everything like that. I've been in New York for about 7 years. I grew up an athlete, grew up putting everything together. Right now, when I moved to New York, I found out how musical theater and like the career and fitness all kind of blend together. And I think if you have a fitness routine, it just is going to make you a better person. So in my personal training, I help people find their whys, why they're working out, what's it going to do, how is it going to support their lifestyle, how's it going to support their career, and everything in their family life and everything like that. And I'm excited to be here and bring my passion for health and wellness and working out, and hopefully I can spread some, make it a little contagious, I guess.
Absolutely. Thank you. Awesome.
Okay, so we started going rogue with Bridgette. Now we're super rogues. This is the Rogue Gallery. So I'm Barak Epstein. I work in tech. I work at Google Cloud. And why am I here? Well, first of all, I haven't worked with Vivace yet, but I think that's probably, that's probably my next step.
Basically, it's a recruiting session.
Yeah, but I think exactly. I think I got some of that expertise through Hila. So Hila is a friend, but then we really became friends when she helped us to sell our home at a time, another really dramatic time in the market. Right after COVID, the market went up, then it plummeted, and I had to really do some real gut checks there. So Hila was talking to me on the phone, she was in the middle of the night in Israel and helping coach me through that. But couple angles I want to bring today. One is everyone's interested in AI right now, and I've been thinking about a lot at work, but also in terms of industries, like how you do not get overwhelmed by a new emerging technology trend and like what the right mindset is for that. That's been something applicable for my career. And then just personally, Bridgette brought in like another dimension of life. For me, I'm really into meditation and just trying to keep that centered perspective. And so hopefully that'll be relevant, but excited to learn from everybody. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, thank you everyone for coming through. Let's start. So Aron, how are you, let's first talk a little bit about the market and general conditions of the market. Aron, how are you experiencing general economic market and the real estate market specifically?
Yeah, sure. So that's a great question. So this is the best way to describe it, I find. When you had 9/11 and that aftermath with the dot-com blow up, and you look at the financial crisis most recently, and you put those together, that's effectively what's happening right now in the commercial real estate space. And to make matters worse, we're, as everyone knows here who's in real estate, we're in a very high interest rate environment, or a higher interest rate environment. So we have significant office vacancy coupled with trillions of dollars of loans coming due that are going to have to be taken on in a higher interest rate environment. So there's a company called TREP you may have heard of. They're a forecasting company, and their predictions for office building default rates are going to skyrocket over the next 12 to 24 months. Wow. And you're starting to see that happen now. Before COVID, the default rate on office buildings was something like 0.5%. Just the other day I saw it hit 5%.
Wow.
So, and this is, by the way, this is a sector that all of our family members who have mutual funds or retirement accounts used to feel very safe investing in office REITs, real estate investment trusts. So that's out the window right now. So and you're talking about municipalities dealing with tax issues, right? Because if you think about New York City, 50% of their budget comes from commercial real estate taxation. People don't know that and understand implications of when these buildings get reset in terms of their valuation. You think New York City's bad now, what are you going to do when all of a sudden that revenue dries up even more? Wow. So it's not just something that we're dealing with in the real estate community, it's going to be felt, I think, around the country in a much more serious way than it is right now.
Wow.
But I mean, that said, I do want to be upbeat about something. And Vivace said this. She said she knows people who are going to eventually start buying buildings, and that's going to happen. Me personally, I've never, in all my years of doing this, I've never been able to add so much value, like I can today. And my clients appreciate that, and you say to them, look, this is the time, if you can do it, commit to a long-term lease in New York City, because not only you can get these great concessions from your landlord, but you're going to look back on the rent that you signed up for, and it's going to be fantastic, because I am a huge believer in New York, and I do believe in the power of the office.
Absolutely.
So I don't want to sound like a complete Debbie Downer. This is just going to take a
Aaron for mayor.
this is a really, really long time to flush out.
Right,
Does
absolutely.
that answer your question?
Absolutely,
All right, cool.
and it's really interesting to hear. I didn't know that the income from leasing for New York City is such a big component.
Commercial real estate tax.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. So that's going to be really interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Sure.
Al, what about you?
So from
How are you experiencing?
my vantage point. So I sit on the residential side, right? I look at people that are looking for spaces large enough to house them for just living, day-to-day living. Also to have some space to work from, right? So they're looking for more 2 bedrooms and up. The market is very, very, very tight right now. There's not a lot of inventory to go ahead and select from. But the one thing that has continued ever since COVID is demand, right? The demand hasn't waned, right? And we see that the unemployment numbers haven't really shot up, even though interest rates and the labor market's going to start experiencing some pain in that area here pretty soon when they have to borrow at a certain amount, right? That may come into play. But over the last couple of years since COVID, we've still seen a very, very strong employment market. And what does that mean? People still need a place to live. They either need to go ahead and rent or buy. And the selection of purchasing is very low. Couple that with the fact that a lot of people decided to go ahead and refinance over the last couple of years, especially during COVID when rates went down to all-time lows. So you have people that are saying, hey, I have an affordable mortgage right now. My housing payment is very affordable. Why would I go ahead and sell when I have X rate to go ahead and get Y rate? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. So if you have people that are in transition at the moment that necessarily want to go ahead and perhaps retire or just make a drastic move from New York City to somewhere else, right? You'll have very, very few people in that area, but for the most people that are betting on New York, right? They're betting on New York, living, working here. They like the atmosphere. They like everything about New York City and everything that it has to bring. It's been very challenging over the last couple of years. And I thought in my mind that with interest rates rising, we would have seen some additional inventory, and we really haven't seen that just yet. But you know, nothing lasts forever. I've been doing this now about 20 years, right? This is just a cycle that we're going through, right? And eventually it will turn. It will turn. So that's
You've seen it turn before.
Yes, I have.
Good message.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Bridgette, from the fitness wellness standpoint, how are you viewing what's happening right now?
In regards to real estate?
In regard to general market conditions, or how is that affecting you or your career?
Yeah, so I think right now fitness is in a kind of a bizarre place. We're kind of getting back to semi-normal, but I think obviously like in the past few years with COVID and everything like that, like before COVID happened, everybody had their routines. They were going to work, or like they had an apartment gym, or they had a routine. Once COVID hit, you know, we were all in our rooms and we were doing whatever was online and, you know, what with equipment that we had. And so I think now that we're back, and I know a lot of people are either like moving apartments or moving and, you know, starting a new lifestyle, or maybe they moved to like Dallas or something like that, you know, like they're out of the city, and, you know, things are changing. I think routines are changing up. So I think I think I want to go more back to the like routines. Is like everybody's routine is very different. It's based on like where you are, if you're going to the office every day, if you've got a gym in your apartment, what your routine is. And I think I've seen a lot of people move, and fitness has gone virtual. And so now people are training with their New York City trainers, you know, in Dallas, and they're going virtual that way, or they've transitioned to only doing on demand, and they've done Peloton. I mean, obviously that's huge, and you know, that kind of thing. And so, but then also you have the new wave of everybody coming back into the world and realizing that we're all back to normal and we're all like in the office, and now we're all stressed out and we're like, oh my God, I need to go to the gym, you know? So I think everything is shifting, and we're all creating these new routines, but I think fitness is a lot more available, especially nowadays, and yeah, I mean, you know, we built all these high rises are going up in New York City, and now they all have apartments and apartment gyms, or people have, gained their own gyms. And so now I think people are finding time to like squeeze it in. And so it's definitely changed and morphed, but it's very available and it's very doable. And I think a lot of people are realizing the importance of fitting it in their schedule. Yeah. If that answers your question.
Definitely, a lot of changes. Amazing. Barak, you've seen some big changes in the tech world recently, specifically pertaining to AI.
Yeah.
What kind of changes are you seeing? Tell us a little bit about that.
Awesome. Yeah, so, beginning of this year and through the end of last year, there were obviously a lot of layoffs in tech, and then at my company specifically, 5 or 10% of people got laid off, and it was pretty sudden and shocking. And, that was a sobering moment, talk about a stressful moment. And, but then a few months later, you got this sort of ChatGPT inspired boom. What that made me think about, and also my experience in real estate, which, we just bought a new place in November, is what are the things that people will invest in even when they're scared? Because I think that we're kind of talking about that. And you sort of, I had a minor in economics in college, and you're looking at all the demand curves, and of course interest rates and New York City taxes matter. But there's also that sort of basic drive, oh, I want a better future for my kids. So like, I'm gonna buy this house now, even though it's a little crazy, right? And then the same thing now, I think there's a lot of money out there. People were sort of holding it in terms of tech investment, but then suddenly they saw ChatGPT, they got all the buzz going, and everyone's like, we can't wait. And so you started to see money start coming in, and now you see a lot of businesses starting to throw money into AI. And just one example in my research coming, so JLL, maybe every competitor of some, but they did their own GPT model, right? So you can customize a model for your industry. Bloomberg did that in finance. So they're suddenly saying, oh my God, we got to do something. So I'm seeing those as sort of the next wave of the economy. How it percolates out, we'll all figure out together. Yeah.
Wow, incredible. Let's talk a little bit in general about stress. Vivace, how do you define stress, and why is it essential to manage it effectively in our lives?
Sure. So first of all, shout out to the agency for having us. Kudos to Hila and the agency. Yes. Thank you. So stress is when your external demands are overpowering your internal resources. And so everyone has a different relationship with stress. So I coach a lot of the top real estate brokers in New York, and I always tell any audience, listen, these people are not smarter than you. They can just manage their stress better than you. So as you learn to manage your stress, you can manage your income. Manage your stress, multiply your income. So I want to show you something. I decided to do a little bit of a show and tell. And, I look at people, and this is your cup of mental or emotional exhaustion, right? And stress is, when I have my left brain clients, they typically say stress is, I just can't take it anymore, right? I feel mentally overwhelmed. And when then I have my right brain creative clients, they say, stress is where I'm emotionally overwhelmed. So whether you're mentally overwhelmed or you're emotionally overwhelmed, I look at it as it's your cup. Your cup is running over. We want to look at why is your cup running over, and how I help people multiply their income is by emptying their fucking cup. So we're going to look at 5 things, 5 cute little things here that you might have in your cup. And I encourage you all to look at what might you have in your cup that is adding to your stress, that is already filling up your cup. So just a little bit of stress, right, can push you over the edge. Has it ever happened to you when some little thing happens and you lose your fucking mind? Right? It's a little thing. It's an email. It's a text message that you got or you didn't get. It's a deal that went through or didn't go through. It's not even that big in the scheme of your life, but in the scheme of your heart and soul in that moment, you feel super fucked. Why? Because your cup ran over. So we're going to look at these 5 things because I want this to be practical and useful for you, like an actual coaching session that some of these people have done, right? What could you do to empty your cup? So as we empty your cup of all of this crap, then we can fill it up with money, okay? And us Jews, we love the money. So I could say that about ourselves. So, okay, so the first thing is and I've done this presentation at many real estate companies where I've asked the top earners of the company, please raise your hands, and I would invite you all to raise your hands. Please raise your hands if you're amazing tolerators. If you could tolerate a lot of fucking bullshit, please. Okay, so like, it's literally like almost everybody in this room. So the first thing is, why are you tolerating what you are tolerating? So that's the biggest thing here. And a lot of times when I help people multiply their income, it's not even helping them on the business side, it's helping them look at what are they tolerating in their personal life, right? So if you're tolerating a relationship that's not fulfilling, I work with people who have addictions, right? Whether it's alcohol or sex addiction or any type of addiction. And I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I'm telling you I can get you from point A to point B. And so this is to look at if you're tolerating things in your personal life, it is impossible, as in totally fucking impossible, for it not to affect your financial life and for it to affect your business life. So a lot of people who go to coaches will go to a business coach and they only focus on the business part. But if your rate of limiting return or the place where you're constricted is in your personal life, how does it help you to only look at your business and professional life? So I think it's so important to make a list of all the things you're tolerating and ask yourself the question, why am I tolerating this? And how long have you been tolerating what you're tolerating? The other thing is all the things that you're avoiding. So if you're avoiding, for example, the things that you need to do, like if you need to make for your realtors, if you need to make social media videos, if you need to do follow-up with your clients, what are all the things that you're avoiding? Because all the things you're avoiding is a nonsense in here that is in your cup, that is taking space, that then when you have a little bit of stress, you overflow. So we need to get rid of all this crap. By the way, I took these stones from my building from the front yard, and they're all looking at me. They're like, she pays a lot of rent, why is she stealing some stones? So I stole some stones. The next thing is, what are all the things that you are avoiding? And I hope you can pan in on this list of 5. So what are all the things that you're avoiding? The things that you know you should be doing that you're not doing. Then one of the major things, and I've been coaching since 2011, right? I realized that the thing that I'm helping people do, which I didn't realize I was doing it, was helping people with self-confidence after trauma. If you have any trauma, which I had barrels of, which were unaddressed, if you have any trauma that is unaddressed, your cup is already going to be full. So I would encourage you to look at any trauma that you have not fulfilled, to taking a look at and addressing and healing. So that's extra garbage in your cup. So this is like self-worth issues. Then we're looking at self-talk. What are you telling yourself about the market out there? What are you telling yourself about what you're capable of doing? What are you telling yourself about your income? Because the top agents, these motherfuckers tell themselves an entirely different story than the story that you tell yourself. And that's why they're the top agents. It's not because they're smarter than you. It's not because they're more capable than you. It's because they have a better and stronger self-talk than you do. So we want to look at, for example, what is your feeling about your self-worth, right? Is your self-worth good or not? Because if it's not, it's taking up space in here. I don't know what I wrote on this because I don't have my glasses. But this one, like another part here when it comes to your identity is your FOMO. How much FOMO are you having? I know so many agents, and I coach the top agents, who go on other people's social media and then they feel inadequate because they're like, so-and-so is doing this and such, right? This is what they sold. Or they're on vacation at this place and now they're on vacation. Look at who they're dating. Look at what they're wearing. Fuck all of that. Forget about the FOMO and the fucking imposter syndrome. Like, I've had enough. Stand in your power, stand in your X factor, stand in what is fucking extraordinary about you, because once you identify what is extraordinary about you, A, nobody could fuck with you, B, you're gonna multiply your income. So then we're gonna look over here, what does that say? We don't know what it says. We don't know, nobody knows.
I can't read your handwriting.
Nobody can read, I came from medicine, so like nobody can read my handwriting. But look at, if you're focusing on things that your shortcomings, I think that one was about the shortcomings. If you're focusing on your shortcomings and you keep fixating on what is wrong and what's missing in your life, and why you're not earning the amount of money you want to earn, or why you don't have the type of clients that you want to have, or why you don't have the price point listings that you have, or why do your deals die in the middle of that, You're focusing on what is wrong and what is missing instead of focusing on what is extraordinary and fucking magnificent about you. And how do we fucking amplify that? So we need to amplify that. This was the trauma one. So we're getting rid of that one. So here we go into follow-ups. Like, are you doing all the follow-ups you can do? And it's like, I don't want to bother people. It's Monday, it's Tuesday, it's 5 p.m., it's 9 a.m. Seriously? Just fucking call people. Okay? So get that garbage out of your cup. Here we go into some other thing which, oh, this was fixating on your shortcomings. That was that one. So this one is, I need to write better. My handwriting is really bad. Oh, this one is about your programming. I believe the only problem with people is their programming. It's you're programmed for limitation, you're programmed for lack, you're programmed to look at what's wrong and what's missing. You're not programmed for your own greatness. So once you get this garbage out of your cup, all the programming that is limiting you, that's preventing you from believing that you can do better now, you can multiply your income in this market. Because the only thing I want all of us to think about is, and I've done this at many real estate companies, I ask the same question. I say, do you know somebody in this market, in this city, that you respect who is making twice as much money as you? Right? Hands, can I see the hands? Okay, so if they're doing twice as well as you, in this market, in integrity, it is possible for you. But first, we want to empty your cup. So when there's a little blip on your screen, you don't overvalue it and give all your power away to that little moment, to that dissatisfaction, that disappointment, that person who's like has some malfunctions who showed up in your life. Also, this is about your priorities. We want to look at in your cup, what are you prioritizing? I find this with women especially, and this boils my blood, that we are conditioned to not prioritize ourselves so that we can be of service to other human beings. And that is not okay, because that is more fucking clutter in your fucking cup. Okay? So prioritize yourself, people. So this is all the garbage, right, that is in your cup. We want to get rid of all of that so that you have an empty cup so you can manage your stress. So we go back to this. What are you tolerating? What are you avoiding doing that you knew you should be doing? I've asked this at other companies. I've asked this at the top agents. I always ask this question, and please raise your hands if you believe you have the answer for this, okay? Can you think of one thing? How many things? One thing. Can you think of one thing that if you did that one thing differently, or actually did that one thing, that you can multiply your income? Just one thing. One thing, people, one thing. The hands are going up because it's literally you are one thing away from having what you want. The first thing is to empty the cup. And then I wrote myself a little note here so I'd remember to ask you. And what I wrote to ask you is, what the fuck is in your cup? Okay, so once you empty your cup, then your stress level will be completely different. You'll be able to handle so much more stress, and it won't even bother you because you come up to here. You have so much more capacity mentally and emotionally to handle whatever you need to handle. And you ask, what's the consequence of not handling your stress? The consequence of not handling your stress is burnout and anxiety. And inability to think clearly, inability to come up with a more compelling plan to go about your life, to go about your business, to add value to yourself, to add value to your team, to add value to your company. All of this happens because you cannot emotionally self-regulate because you have so much garbage in your cup. So, for the love of God, get rid of the garbage in your cup. That's right.
Don't break it.
This is actually my cup from my apartment, so I'm going to take it back home.
Wow, that was amazing.
Well, thank you.
Whew. Vivace, that was incredible.
Thank
you
you.
so much for
Thank
sharing
you
all
for
that.
and this.
Yeah, this is perfect.
Thank
Really
you.
Beautiful. It makes me really dig deep.
I want everyone in this room to know that you have so much power and authority over your lives. There's so much that you can do. It's not the fucking market out there. It's not the, I love everything that everyone's saying, but it's not the interest rates. Why? Because the top agents are the top agents pre-COVID, during COVID, post-COVID, tomorrow, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, because they have a different mindset. So it's, yes, I understand it's more difficult. Even my top agents are complaining. The deals are taking longer. Things aren't happening. Things are more convoluted. Everyone's pissed off. I totally get that. But guess what? They're still the top agents. And you can be too. It's a matter of mindset. It's not a matter of who you are. You have that desire in your heart, then that means you have the ability to unleash that. And when you empty your cup, there's so much space for you to grow into your own greatness. And I'm excited and very passionate about that because for so many years, I suffered. And I don't want anyone, it was self-imposed suffering because there was too much garbage in my cup. Okay, my cup was already full. So like a little tiny thing would happen and I was just like devastated. And I lived in that state of devastation for years and years and years and years. So I left my medical career once I was able to help myself and to say no one should suffer. If they have access to information and resources of why not to suffer. And we can activate the belief in your heart, in your soul, that you are capable of so much more, that your God is a good God, and I'm not religious, but if God put that desire in your heart, you have the ability to manifest it.
Yeah. Thanks, Vivace.
Thanks, Hila.
Which brings me to my next question to you. Can you share a story of adversity in your life and how you handled the stress that came with it?
All right, so my story is not a fun story, but I want to share the story because it's an honest story. And because people do not share their true stories because they're afraid of repercussions as I was. So in 2019, I put a video out on YouTube, which was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, volitionally. And it was a story of my life and the stress that I've been through. So I came from domestic violence and a lot of different types of ridiculous, absurd, painful abuse, which is chronicled in that video. So I'm not going to address it at this moment. However, I never addressed any of the pain that I had been through, which is why today I am so fervently pro speaking about self-confidence after trauma. I feel like everybody has a different type of trauma. And I don't want to speak for you because maybe you'll be like, you don't have trauma, but good for you if you don't. But I believe that everybody has some sort of trauma, like whatever is traumatic to you, whatever hurt you. And how do I define trauma? I define trauma as the thing that happened to you that after that you were never the same again. Okay, whatever that thing is to you. If you weren't picked for the baseball team, or if something horrendous happened to you, if you were never the same again, then to me, that is trauma. So, needless to say, I never addressed any of the trauma that I went through. I went through all the years of school. I got degree after degree after degree just to distract myself. I didn't pay attention to my feelings. I disregarded all of my feelings. And some of you know, I became suicidal and I picked my own self-expiration date. So, I speak from a place of wanting no one to go through that again. So how did I handle my stress? I just disregarded it to the point that I was suicidal.
Avoidance.
Total, yes, thank you, good student, thank you, yes, many of those things, right? My identity was fucked, my self-talk was fucked, my tolerating was definitely like extreme. Everything on that list I was at the apex. When I was suicidal at the 11th hour, literally a few days before my self-imposed expiration date, a girlfriend of mine told me to go get a brain scan, and I flew to another state to get a brain scan. And I was on this plane, and I had a panic attack on the plane. I just couldn't, I was just so overwhelmed with fear and anxiety and overwhelm and pain and trauma and things that I never healed because I was too busy getting another degree and excelling really well in the business place. So if you saw me in the business place, right, it looked like I was doing really great. I looked good, I dressed well, I treated people really well, I was extraordinary at my job in the medical field, but I was dead inside, right? I was dead and I knew that I was dead inside. So I went and I got this brain scan, and the brain scan showed that the trauma centers in my head were at level 10 all the time, and that there was a way to help me. So my point is, if you're having some sort of stress, for the love of God, please, your stress may not be as extreme as mine was because I let it go on for so long, but whatever, it doesn't matter if you have a level, maybe I had a level 10 stress and you have a level 7 stress. It's killing your life force. And so my biggest recommendation to anybody is I didn't do this. Please, I was a cautionary tale. Don't do what I did. Don't think you can handle it on your own. Don't think you can shove it under the carpet. Don't think it's going to go away. And don't think ignoring it is better. I kept using this term, it's inefficient to talk about your past. It's just inefficient. Why would I talk about some shit that happened 20 years ago? How is that going to change what happened? What's going to transform is you're going to transform. You're going to heal. You're going to power up. There's something going to be like evoked within you that will change within you. You'll never be the same again. You'll never have that cup again. You get rid of whatever all the contents or many of the contents that are in that cup. So how did I handle stress? By ignoring it, by pretending it wasn't happening, by going along with my family of origin bullshit drama that we come from a successful family. We come from a dignified family. There was nothing fucking dignified that was happening in our family. Right? And I had to play this game, and we're Iranian and we're Jewish, and you have to be this way and be this way. You're from the Middle East, zip it up. As a woman, you shouldn't speak. And so now I'm doing the exact opposite. Right now I'm saying if you have any amount of stress, I don't care if you think it's mundane and it's stupid and you shouldn't feel that way, respect the way that you feel, and for the love of God, get help. If the first person you go to can't help you, go to the second person, go to the third person, go to the 11th person. Go to a place where there's someone who is capable of connecting with you, understanding you, helping you, and making you believe that there is a solution for you. Whether it's an emotional problem, a mental problem, a financial problem, a relationship problem, whatever it is that you're dealing with, we want to have respect for that. We want to honor you. We want to honor whatever it is that you've gone through. And to recognize you are so much more powerful than you think. So I didn't handle my stress, and I'm really advocating for the love of God. Get whatever help you need, because who you are is magical and beautiful. I call it the luxury of being you. There's some luxury that God placed in your heart, and it's our job in this lifetime to open up this box, this luxury of being us, and to share that with ourselves and to share that with humanity. So to disregard our own needs because we're too busy for a lot of people taking care of their family, taking care of their kids, taking care of the employees or their teammates or whoever they're taking care of, and the self-care is missing. So please, do some self-care and realize that you're worth it.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. It's a really powerful one. I know that I draw a lot of inspiration from it, and I hope our audience as well.
Thank you.
Al, I have a similar question for you. Can you share a story of adversity in your life and how you handled stress that came with it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I gave it some thought just beforehand, but around last year, around September, I discovered my truth. I came from two immigrant parents that immigrated from the Dominican Republic. I grew up in the housing projects of New York City on the Lower East Side. I was in a crime-infested, drug-riddled, or the other way around, community, and yet I had a mom and a dad that ensured that I was in extracurricular activities like the Peled Ballet here on Broadway. I played the violin for the better parts of 7 years. They placed me in a program called Big Brothers Big Sisters, where I was appointed a mentor who today is still my big brother, Ganesh from India. And what I saw there was that there was opportunity, and for a long time I was ashamed of telling my colleagues, my friends that I had met during the college years that I was from the housing projects. I thought I was going to be belittled. I thought I was going to be less than, or thought of less than, because I came from a very poor community, from poor parents that growing up, I didn't know that I was poor, right? I had so much. I wasn't rich financially, but having a mom and a dad that were there for me and that cared for myself and my younger brother, it was just an immense experience for me. So when I look back and I look at the fact that I'm speaking my truth now, I'm comfortable in my own skin and saying, yes, I grew up in the housing projects. Yes, I grew up in poverty. Yes, this is my reality, right? Or was my reality. And today, fast forward, I'm married with 2 sons, and I'm able to offer them a different life because of hard work, right? And the opportunity that my parents gave me and were able to instill in me. It helps me manage stress, right? That's the way I manage my stress. I tend to slow things down and say, as bad as it is today, it wasn't as bad as it was back then. And I didn't realize that it was bad back then, right? So I always tend to go ahead and gravitate to my experience. My parents are long gone now. They had long issues with disease, multiple sclerosis, and diabetes, so they're long gone, but I still have them in me. And one thing that really, really strikes me when I think about stress and what I can do to manage it is to remind myself that those values that were instilled in me as a child were the hunger for purpose, right? The family values, right? That some people may get away from, and I don't, listen, it's up to everybody if you want to have a family, not have a family, or whatever the case is, but it was a value that was instilled in me, right? I felt rich without any money involved, right? Very little resources, right? And we created this family, and it was something that has always stuck in me, and it reminds me that there is purpose behind my life, and I'm eagerly seeking purpose on every single day. So when I get a client that calls and says, hey, I need XYZ right now, well, you don't need it right this second, because you know what, you're not going to close right this second. Let's slow it down a little bit, you know? And I tend to remind myself, and I tend to control the conversation that way, and that's how I've been able to go ahead and manage stress, is by speaking my truth.
Amen.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Can I ask him one question? Do you
Yeah, of
mind?
course. No, go ahead.
Can you share, if you feel comfortable, can you share with them, what was it like when you hadn't shared your truth? What was the stress like for you internally the entire time you were hiding your truth and hiding this beautiful place that you came from, which is just different than other places that people have come from? And I call it beautiful because it was your truth.
Yeah, so I always felt like I had to fit in, especially when I got to college, right, in university, and then when I got into corporate America, right? My legal name is Adalberto Diaz, right? And when I was looking for jobs, right, my resume said Adalberto Diaz on it, and I used to fix this computer, because I was in computer consulting before I got into mortgage banking. This lady's a very prominent professor from Columbia named Claudia Dreyfus. I used to fix her computer. And I never charged her anything. It was just something that I did on the side. And she said, Albert, if you ever need anything, you know, go ahead and just ask me. So one day I said, listen, I want to get out of computer consulting. I'm tired of getting underneath desks. You know, you're always bothering people. It's not really what I want to do. I'm more of a people person. So I said, can you look over my resume, right? And she looked over the resume one day and she goes, you know what, Albert, everything looks great, but I'm going to just give you one bit of advice. Why don't you just lower your name from Adalberto to Albert? I shortened it, and I kid you not, this is the Monster.com era, when people would go ahead and put their resumes on Monster.com, and the phone was ringing galore, right? So when I got into corporate America, sorry, Siri just came on. When I got into corporate America, I felt like I needed to fit in, right? And then I shortened my name to Al, and Al Diaz, right? And it was just more of like, hey, do I really let them know who the real Al is, you know, who Adalberto is, you know? And I just couldn't allow myself to do that. I always felt like I had to fit in. And it wasn't a good feeling. And it was stressful at times because I had to essentially be a different person. I wasn't who I was, right? I was, you know, we would relate about certain things, maybe, you know, a nice meal to eat or, you know, traveling because I'm into similar interests. But I couldn't let them know where I was from and where my family was from and what I was doing on the weekends because it wasn't relatable. In my mind, it wasn't relatable, right? And I've been able to overcome that just by just saying the truth. It is what it is. You get what you get, and here I am.
Imagine letting go of the thing that you're hiding. Imagine the cost of that mentally and emotionally, the thing that you want no one to know about you. Right? For me, it was like many things, but namely, mostly was the suicide thing. Because I was like, if all these major real estate companies that I already had relationships with, right, that I was already coaching, I said, if they find out that this is my story, I'm going to lose all my clients because I'm going to be the crazy girl. And so everything that you're hiding, which is actually like he was hiding, he was from the projects, right? And this is what's incredible about him. This is what's so beautiful about him. This is what's so remarkable and unique about him. Anything that you're hiding, consider the possibility that if you gave yourself permission to release your truth, that you can literally multiply the joy in your life.
Amen.
Yes.
Amazing. Thank you. We're going to bring it a little bit bigger now and gradual. We're going to talk a little bit of like common stressors in today's market. So I'm going to stay with you, Al. What, from your experience, just give us a few sentences on what are the most common stressors right now in today's market for you, from your standpoint?
From my standpoint, it's deadlines. Oftentimes, consumers and customers and people think that they need things right then and there, and if they don't get it right then and there, they feel like they're going to miss out. And in fact, just earlier today, I was dealing with someone that's negotiating a contract right now, and they're worried about the interest rate environment. And typically, you don't go ahead and lock in rates until you have a fully executed contract, right? So I had to go ahead and educate the person and say, hey, let's slow this down a little bit. You know what I mean? An eighth of 1% is not going to make a terrible difference. Yes, I want you to go ahead and have the difference in your pocket versus to pay it in the form of interest, but it's not going to make a huge impact, right, in your day-to-day life. So just managing that, being able to go ahead and let them know, you know what, it's not as urgent as you feel, right, is the way that I go ahead and manage that.
Right.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. We feel that way as well, also in the residential sales realm. Aron, from your standpoint of commercial real estate and leasing, what are the most common stressors in your opinion?
Well, there's so many. I would say that they've been exasperated recently, right? I think, there's always a big level in all real estate, as everyone knows, of uncertainty, right? In the corporate world, a company get acquired, could go out of business.
Right.
The CFO could leave and the new CFO comes in with a different relationship, so you're out. You don't get paid until the deal closes. So you have that. But now you have this whole other phenomenon with hybrid work, right? And really pushing people, companies and business leaders to say, I don't need as much space as I have. So what's happening is you're seeing these companies, those who are committed to New York will do long-term leases, but taking a lot less space than they previously had. So there's a lot less deals to get a hold of, a lot less space out there that's being leased. So commissions are being lessened significantly. So, so I think you're starting to see this a lot in the results of my company and our competitors. It's really putting a lot of pressure on bottom line numbers. So, I think people are really starting to think about, is this business for them? Right? Am I going to be able to pay for, hopefully they're not too overly extended. People do get overly extended financially. Am I going to be able to pay for my second home? Am I going to be able to help my kids go to college? So you're starting to hear these types of conversations. You've always heard them, but you're hearing them a lot more right now. So I think that's creating a lot of stress for people.
Yeah, and it sounds like you said previously, this is where top producers like yourself and real advisors get to shine with their own expertise, right? Because when everyone else is saying, oh, the market's shit, they have you as their advisor saying, like giving them actual advice on how to get the deals done.
Well, I mean, that's it, right? And the proof is in the pudding. When you can close a deal and say, this is the amount of free rent that I got, or I got the landlord to do this. I've never seen this before, right? When you can provide that type of color and value add, it gets people really excited. They may not want to execute on what you're suggesting, right? But I'm telling them that if you do execute, you can expect something that's really going to be fantastic.
Right. Amazing. So yeah, it's a lot of fear out there. Bridgette, from your standpoint, what are the common stressors or the common objections you get that are related to fitness or wellness?
Yeah. First of all, I have to say you guys are amazing, and I'm loving being here right now. Okay, so here we go. I want to talk on to everybody. So common stressors, I think, in fitness in general, for the working person, the busy professional, the mom, the person, the independent boss babe out there, who knows, whoever you call yourself. Common objections I think I see is time. You just don't have time in your day. You don't slot it in. You don't put it on the calendar. Maybe it comes down to money. You can't afford the Equinox, or you don't want to work from home. Money is an issue. Let's see other things. We have you're not confident in the gym. You don't really know what you're doing. So then you're like, why go? I don't want to hurt myself. There's lots of different things. I mean, I could go on and on and on. I think the number one thing, with objections come, I think, answers. And I think that's what I also really want to chat about, because there are so many stressors, and it's how can fitness come in and be that thing that actually relieves everything? And I actually can I borrow your cup?
Oh my God, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I think where fitness very much comes into this is, and what I stand for as a personal trainer, is how to A, get started with all of this stuff, how to B, get motivated, do all of the things, not necessarily work. I mean, obviously there's going to be worries in this world. Watching the news is absolutely psycho these days, and it's just exhausting. And so it's how do you get started doing all of this stuff? And I think fitness is the number one thing. So once we get past objections, if I were to say to somebody just starting out, I'd be start small. Pick a couple days that you're going to work out. So many people do not work out. I'm going to go on tangents. You feel free to bring me in. So the CDC and I think the American Heart Association says that they advise that you get 150 minutes of exercise in a week. Now, if you break that down, because that number is like really aggressive, that's basically 30 minutes a day, 5 times a week. Walking your dog in the morning is 15 minutes, right? Walking your dog in the evening is 15 minutes. Going and calling your mom or, whatever. Get that in. So many people don't even get 30 minutes in. So just starting your day with just a little bit of exercise, it doesn't have to be aggressive. I think when people hear fitness or people hear working out, they see like Barry's Boot Camp at 45. They see Peloton. They're like, I have to have like the best freaking outfit in order to work out. No, girl, go in your big t-shirt. So so needless to say, I think like you don't necessarily have to start your day with fitness, but it doesn't also have to be like aggressive. It doesn't have to be intense. It can be something that you love. And then to kind of like come back to the cup here, I always think like if I were to roll out of bed in the morning and I, open up my laptop, lots of people are working from home, maybe I have my cup of coffee, it takes me like 30 minutes to get into the mood to like actually sit down and like answer emails, tolerate the emails that I have, figure out the things that I want to avoid, all of those things. But if I get up, go for a walk, get some sunshine, or maybe I just do like a little stretching. It doesn't even have to be a whole yoga video. It doesn't have to be a 45-minute flow. It can be a 15-minute flow. It could be a dance workout, or you can just lay on your mat and pretend you're doing abs. That's okay. That's okay. The point is also that you're there and you're going to move your body. So the idea of working out shouldn't be to be like super, super intense and fit. And so I think that's why people have objections, because they think that it needs to be this intense thing. It just needs to get your blood flowing. And I guarantee that if you like get up or if you take a break during the middle of the day, you're gonna be able to tolerate people a lot more. Like, who leaves the gym and they're like, oh God, I feel like the worst person right now. No, you leave the gym and you're like, yes, I can slay. Like you kill it. You're ready for the freaking day. So, and yeah, again, it can be any time of day, whatever, but you tolerate more people. I always tick off so many things. Like after I work, you mentioned like the dread of posting to social media. Every time, like I'll go teach a class or I'll have a personal training session and then I'll do a little workout myself afterwards. And I'm like, yes, I'll like film stuff during I work out. And then afterwards I'm like, okay, I got to do it right now. This is great. I looked awesome. Like, okay, post, yes, done. But you get so motivated and all of a sudden you just find yourself ticking off things because you have that energy. Your blood is flowing, you're feeling good about yourself. It can help with trauma, I think. Your self-talk is just like through the roof. You look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, boom, oh my gosh, hello, who is that? You just are so excited about life. And I think it can also like help your identity, this is actually kind of a fun thing that I could go off on, but I'm very in the business of, I grew up an athlete, however, then I transitioned into a musical theater person, and there was a very big identity crisis that I had, because back when I was in college, it wasn't the thing to do. It was like, it was the Glee era. I mean, I don't want to date myself, but like Glee, like you don't work out. They don't work out. They're the nerds. They're the theater kids. They don't do that. The dance people, like they worked out, but like we didn't work out. We just sang. And now when I got to New York, I was like, holy shit. I was like, no, you have to be able to do both. If you can't do both, you're screwed. You have to be on stage 8 times a week. So it's like, so that was very much, so it's funny how like your identity kind of shifts. And also going back to like the common person, you don't have to be like a Peloton instructor, but you can be an athlete. Like you don't necessarily, even if you're 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, you can still train like an athlete and you can still train well, and it doesn't have to be intense. Mostly you just got to try to avoid like, actually I just learned this stat. Sorry, I'm really going off. You guys inspired me so much. I get very excited. I just learned this. The test does anybody know what the test is if you're like getting old and you have to go into a home? Like what's the one thing that if you can't do this anymore, you have to go into a home or assisted living?
Higher shoes.
Ooh, that's a good one. It's actually just getting off the toilet, which is a squat. So if you think about it, like that's one thing that if you were to go into a personal training session, that's probably one thing that your trainer would have you do. And so many people don't know how to do that. And so really it's just about training for life and identifying the objections to it, getting into it. You don't have to go balls to the walls. Just get with somebody who can like teach you how to do a squat, teach you how to do a hinge, and just train that. Like some days you might not even sweat, honestly. And strength training is one of the best things in the whole world. So just because you don't sweat doesn't mean you're not going to get a good workout. Train for life.
Woo!
Oh,
Yes.
I think I just gave you all my content.
Can we get Bridgette here to work us out one day? Can we like use this, bring our mats?
Part of the program. program in just a little bit.
Listen, I want to do squats with Bridget.
Let's do it now.
Yeah.
Barak, where do you see stress or stressors in relation to AI, and what are ways to use technology to our advantage?
Great question. I'm glad you didn't ask me the overcoming trauma question, because I'm like probably only 70% of the way there, so I don't think my story would be as inspiring, so thank you. But that's all good. But anyway, I think one advantage in tech, and I had a career, I studied history, I taught kids, I did a different way, I kind of came into tech for the opportunity and the challenge, but it wasn't like my first love. But what I've had to face in tech is change is relentless. So I, like the political environment, the economic environment, I don't focus on those because I can't afford to. I'm focused on things that are changing very rapidly in tech. And so my unfair advantage in this environment is I've been training my mind that way for a long time, not to be overwhelmed by new things happening. Okay, so I said I studied history. My brother today was in Berlin and he sent me a picture. So Otto von Bismarck was one of the greatest statesmen of all time, and he helped unify Germany. And he had a quote that I looked up today. He said that the job of the statesman is to hear the hoofbeats of God going through history and to jump up and catch the coattails. Right? So every moment's like that, but this is especially that kind of moment. So there are all these things happening. We're hearing the thunder of the hoofbeats, and we're like, oh my God, what the fuck? But everybody's feeling that way. Right. And the people who can say, wait, I'm going to pay attention to where the coattails are, and I'm going to jump up and catch them, that's your best chance. Okay, so what that means for me and my job is don't expect to know everything, right? Like, what can I do while remaining centered, while staying who I am? Right? How can I amplify what I do for other people? Because that's what you ultimately get paid for, right? So Al, and I want to call you Alberto now, anyway, that was a beautiful story. But we were talking before, and you were generous enough to sort of help me workshop some ideas. I've been doing a little bit of real estate research before this week, so I would know a little bit what I was talking about. But so there's an example. You could say, wait, there are these large language models. There's this AI. How do I automate what I'm doing? How do I run faster? How do I do more? Everyone's having more marketing content. You know what I think? There's going to be so much marketing content out there. Who's going to read it, right? So take a step back, take a breath, and say, how's the ecosystem going to change? What are people going to be doing that they weren't doing before? And how do I have new tools that can delight my customers and my associates more? So concretely, right? If you take, Al has all kinds of information about mortgage approvals, right? So I said, well, why don't you take a large language model? You can actually there's something called, it happens to be the one I know because it's at my company, Generative AI Studio. And you can train a model so it's optimized for specific data that you know about. You can feed it in with your company's data, with whatever you know, right? And so that it will be better at answering questions about X. And if it's about how you get a mortgage approval or what kinds of conditions are likely to be risky, you can feed that in, right? Oh, how do I do that? Well, there's a service called Upwork. I don't have any association with that, but I've looked at it myself. So you can find people who make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year taking these contract jobs and developing something like a software tool. And you can say to them, here's this project. They'll give you an estimate. That's $5,000, but I want you to teach me how you did it, right? And so now you could spend 6 months on this, and suddenly you have a tool that is going to make your customers and your associates in sort of adjacent professions delighted that now they're learning more, they're learning faster. You're making the world easier for them, and you're calming down the sense of panic about the hoofbeats, right? So that's just one example. I think it's a good one. Someone should do it in real estate, but there's 1,000 other ideas. And what I'm trying to say is come up with your idea, and because things are moving so fast, there's probably somebody who can help you who's solving some other part of the problem. So open up your eyes and try to associate with those people. Don't feel like you need to go get a PhD in something you didn't know before, okay? And so that's the catching the coattails of the horseman rushing by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you said something along the lines of when
Yeah.
going to AI,
Yeah.
it's not like you can go to AI and say, hey, how
Yes.
do I become not less
Yes.
stressed, right?
Yeah.
But by a certain process,
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
create language with the AI.
Yeah.
That's so specific and unique
Yeah.
that it can maybe pull new
Yeah.
ideas that you haven't thought.
So so two things about that. Yeah. So one thing is like you're like, oh, these geniuses made these large language models. They're gonna start eating my.
Just explain what is a large language model.
Okay. So ChatGPT is a large language model, right? It's basically talking to you like it's a person, right? And it's like, oh my God, it's so smart. I mean, it's impressive, but what is it doing? I'm oversimplifying, of course. It is taking the average of like what the internet has told you. If you say, what are 10 ways I can earn money? It's going to give you 10 ways to earn money. They're going to be mediocre. They'll be fine, okay? But if you start to think about, if you start to have a theory of yourself, of what what your specific value is, what people here have been talking about better than I can, but then you go and you say, okay, my angle as a real estate agent is going to be to delight families, to be part of their life, A, and B, I'm going to have like the closest relationships with mortgage lenders so they all love me and we have a seamless process for my customers. You can start to go in and ask questions about that. How would I research these things, right? And now you're asking specific questions and you're starting to treat you're starting to do things that would normally take you like 10 searches, right? And you're collapsing it down to one search. Now, the caution there is now you have this answer, and it'll be better than the generic question you've asked, but it's not all necessarily going to be true. You still need to check it because search is supposed to give you like reliable sites that are true. Large language model is supposed to give you like a text that would make sense. It could be bullshit. Okay, and it will be like, it's like a person. Yes. So check those things out, build up your theory around that, but you started from an idea of what you could do. And that was your unfair advantage because otherwise you're getting the average, everyone else is getting that average. What are 10 marketing steps? What are 10 ways to automate marketing emails? How many of us, we all want to pull our eyes out when we see that stuff. So just try to get perspective, and that's your best bet.
Love that. We did that exercise the other day, remember?
ChatGPT is my bitch. I use ChatGPT on coaching calls. It's so amazing. It can give you so much of a head start,
Right.
and also to bring your attention to things that you may have excluded from your own thought process, especially if your cup is full. Just go to ChatGPT.
Yeah. And I think the more specific you are with the question,
Yeah.
the better answers, and that's kind of where I think Barak is going
Yeah.
with that is first understanding your identity and your truth, understanding your value, and only then coming to AI and using that as a platform or leveraging that. So it sounds like one of the ways that you suggest handling the stressor is actually thinking of how to make that stressor into an advantage, into leverage to yourself, right?
Great. Nothing
Yeah,
to
I
add.
love that.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. All right, we have a little bit more time, so I'm gonna jump a little bit into some tips that you guys can give to this amazing audience of how to manage stress. So I'm just gonna. I had a specific question relating to that. I apologize. All right, we're gonna start with you, Aron. Share 3 to 4 tips on how to manage stress that works for you.
Okay. Well, I'm much older now than, this is gonna be a very different perspective than if it was like 15 years ago, even 5 years or 10 years ago.
That's okay.
But I think for me, and some people may not want to hear
Forgive
this.
you for being old.
Thank you. I would say, health is like to Bridget's point. I think we're all talking
Yeah.
about stress and the impact it has on health. And to me, that's
Sure.
my number one priority right now is mental and physical well-being. So I think about, okay, what does that mean? That means, well, I need to get a good night's sleep, right? I need to work out a lot, which I enjoy doing. Not obsess over, but enjoy doing. I need to stay mentally engaged. So for me, like alcohol is something I don't really drink anymore. I love wine. I'm a huge wine guy, but I don't drink much at all anymore because I find that it affects my sleep. Saturday night, I had friends come over. I had way too much wine. My sleep was horrible. And so I really try not to drink anymore. So that's
Right.
number one. And I think that's important too. I know it's hard, people are like, well, this is a culture
Right.
of drinking. But I think the more that you can distance yourself from that, you're going to create a happier place. That's something that I found for myself.
Right.
Number two is, and no offense, Barak, but I want to, please don't get upset when I say this, I'm trying to like use less technology. So I'm really trying to not be on my phone as much, be more present, and do things that I think enable me to think creatively, which is really important for my business and life. So I've taken up a lot of hobbies.
Like
I'm playing
what?
the guitar is something
Nice.
I've been playing a lot of recently, and I really enjoy that. I've been playing chess very avidly,
Nice.
and I've been taking my fitness to another level. So those are some of the things that I've been doing, and I read a lot. So for me, reading is like one of the most important things that I can do, all across the board: fiction, nonfiction, self-help, whatever it might be. So those are some tips that I have.
So it sounds like you're really focusing on listening to yourself, discovering your inner truth, and amplifying it, and that's helping you manage your own stress.
Yeah, and also be more productive.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
Al, share 3 to 4 tips on how to manage stress that works for you.
Yeah, so for me, breathing, taking a step back and doing this breathing exercise where I breathe in and exhale around 10 times, 10 seconds in, that really helps me. I've been on a different tip lately, I'm really looking to connect with individuals, with pets, with insects, with anybody, right, that's around me, just to slow things down, and that really has helped me lately. Also reading, I took a magazine to the pool the other day, and I said, let me go by myself and sit by the pool and just read and hear somebody else's perspective on real topics, right, like current events. I find that a bit more interesting, and it owns me down, right? Like it brings me down when I'm
Right.
reading about perspectives on real topics, are the 3 things that I could come up with to control stress.
Perfect. Barak, is there a specific way we talked a little bit about using technology or using the stressor to manifest it and leverage it? Is there a specific tip of like automation through AI or any other tricks that I don't know of that you can share with us?
Well, I mean, Aron, I actually mostly agree with you. So, I have a meditation app, I listen to that. But I go to Prospect Park, and I go sometimes, I don't do this every time, but I'll put my hand on a tree and think about tree time. Think about how slow that tree's growing and what its perspective would be. Amazing. If you can get over the self-consciousness of it. So I'm not sure I'm going to give you a tech answer on this one, but those are, I'll think about it. Maybe I'll come up with a good one, but I think it's mostly finding your own speed, not the electron speed. That's around, and we all have to deal with it, 100%.
Bridgette, do you have an exercise for us to kind of?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in general, I agree. Like I think Aron, you totally killed it. That answer I think was great because I agree in all those things: sleep, drinking water, stretching, all that jazz. I figured I'd put together some. I mean, we're not going to do squats unless you guys want to do squats. We totally can. Be happy to. We can finish with it. No, I was just thinking about doing just some seated exercises that you can do at your desk. Like if you find a moment where you're super stressed, or maybe your cup is overflowing and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to take a break, or maybe it's not and you're just like, you know what, I need a break. These are just some things that we can get into, and I'll throw a little education in with it as well. So the first thing I want to talk about is actually breathing, but I'm going to do some stuff through exercise first. So it's actually a group project, so everybody sit on the edge of their seat, please. I'm going to make sure my shoulder isn't coming down here. Okay, so with both feet firmly planted on the floor. The other thing, talk about like touching trees. If you can be barefoot, you guys don't have to get barefoot right now, but barefoot and like connecting to the earth is like mwah, amazing. I work out with kettlebells barefoot, all of the things, just like building those like feet muscles are incredible. Okay, that's a different tangent. Both feet on the floor. What we're gonna do, if you guys have ever been to a yoga class and found a cat-cow, we're gonna do that, but we're just gonna do it seated. So place your hands just on your knees out in front of you. We're gonna roll our shoulders back, puff up your chest like you're like Superman. Take a look all the way up at the ceiling. Look all the way back. Inhale through your nose. And then exhale, round your spine, drop your head, chin into your chest, and try to really round your spine, tuck your pelvis up and under, like suck in your belly, drop your head all the way. Inhale, roll your shoulders, look back. Take a look up. Exhale, round your spine, cave inward. Feel this time on this one, the difference that your hips are doing. So as you inhale, look up towards the ceiling. Notice what your butt, your sits bones, your hips are doing. And then exhale, round your spine. Notice how you tuck that pelvis up and under, and then you tuck in. Find neutral and just come up to standing. So I wanted to do that drill first because I think it's absolutely incredible in finding your pelvis stable, like sits bones, positioning is what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, you felt it in your back, but then also, your hips tilt backwards, and then when you come forward, your hips tilt forward. So there's a thing called, there's a neutral pelvic tilt. There's an anterior pelvic tilt, which is when your hips are forward. So if I have my hands on my hips, if my hips are like a bowl, if I were to tilt forward, so if I were to puff up my chest, the bowl would tilt forward, right? So water would follow the bowl this way. Opposite, when you tilt back, squeeze your butt muscles, tilt back, now water's gonna fall out backwards. That's a posterior pelvic tilt. Now we're all built super, super differently. So you might see somebody on the street that has a natural posterior pelvic tilt, right? Or they're like the big booty girl who's got like the butt up, and that's gonna be your anterior, right? Which is great. Sorry if I hit this. So what you want to try to find, though, is just to be aware of it. Like, you can train yourself, you can do this in sessions, in workout classes, but try to find that neutral position. So sometimes when you're at your desk, maybe you do that little exercise, that cat-cow seated, find a nice neutral positioning, and then let's just take some breaths. So just place your hands on your thighs. Find that difference, that cat-cow, and then find neutral. Right now, your core and your center here is nice and imbalanced. So when you're in an anterior pelvic or a posterior pelvic tilt, your core is actually, and your diaphragm is all scrunched in different ways. So what we're trying to do is optimize that diaphragm so that we can take a beautiful, large, deep breath. So what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna sit up nice and tall, feel that pelvic tilt, roll our shoulders back. You can close your eyes. We're gonna take a deep breath in for 4 seconds, and then take a quick little breath at the top in, and then we'll exhale for 4 seconds as well. So let's close our eyes. We'll take a deep breath in for 4, 3, 2, 1. Quick little inhale, and then exhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. We're gonna do it one more time. Inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Quick inhale, exhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes. Okay, we're going to do it one more time, but I'm going to give you something to think about. And that is to breathe as deep as you possibly can. So go all the way deep down. You might feel this in your groin or your pelvic bone, but think about taking the biggest and largest deep breath that you possibly can. Let's inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, exhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Beautiful. Open your eyes. Who feels good after that? Yes. Okay, that's something you can do at work. A couple other ones that I really, really like, and that's just like a nice centering tool that you don't need a lot of space for. The other one, I'm gonna have everybody bring their arms all the way up above your head. Your feet again planted on the floor. We're gonna lift our fingertips all the way to the ceiling, and then we're gonna exhale our right hand behind, so it goes right behind the chair, and then your left hand is gonna go all the way in front of you. Beautiful. So we should be looking to like the side of wherever we are. Now I want you to feel where your hips are. Maybe as you turned your arm back, you felt your right hip come back, right? Let's bring our hips center even so that our core is, or our pelvis is like facing forwards, but we're in that nice twist. This is getting into that beautiful, you guys, we all look like surfers. This is awesome. You guys, fitness is fun. What? Okay. Okay, so what we're feeling now is we're getting into our T-spine, which is our upper thoracic, or our thoracic spine, which is the upper middle back part of our body. And while we're at a desk all day, this could get really tense. So let's reach our fingertips forward and backward for just one little inch, and then exhale, let's bring it back into center. Yeah, so what you're trying to find is like you're opening up that upper body here. And a lot of times when we're sitting at a desk all day, you know, we're like this or we're like this. And so it's just about opening it up and then rotating. And as you keep these guys center, you can really rotate through that upper body and just find that mobility. Let's do the other side because we have to be even. Arms come up. I mean, it won't be the end of the world, but you know. Inhale, reach your fingertips high. Exhale, left arm goes back, right arm goes forward. Did you feel your left hip slide back? Yeah. Slide that left hip forward just a little bit. Gorgeous. Feel that twist. Roll your shoulders down out of your ears. So if your shoulders are in your ears, bring them down. Beautiful. Pretend like you're pushing on a table on both sides. Inhale, exhale, bring it on into the center. And then bring it down. Shake it on out, shake it on out. That's also another one that you can do, just like shake it on out. Yeah, I mean, I could go on for days. I mean, stay after class and we'll talk about squats.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. All right.
Can we do squats at Al's pool? With, of course, Bridgette leading the squat team.
Vivace, I'm gonna have you finish us, close us out.
Sure.
How can we support and help others who may be experiencing high levels of stress in their lives?
Ask them what they want and need. Do not offer unsolicited advice. Don't try to fucking fix them. Ask them, what do you want and need? And then just shut the fuck up and listen and say, okay, this is what you want and need. Which would you like first? Get permission. I always get permission when I'm coaching anyone, even on coaching calls. I say, do I have permission to give you feedback? Everyone knows I do this, always. Do I have permission to give you feedback? Truth all the time. And they're like, yeah, bitch, that's why we're paying you. But I still ask, do I have permission to give you feedback? Because a lot of times, even on coaching calls, clients will say, no, I'm not ready. I'm still talking. Or I have something else to say. So I will always ask, so someone can share for 15 minutes. I was telling them I did a coaching call today. It was 4 hours and 7 minutes nonstop. Wow. Okay? And it's about listening to the person and letting them share. And then when they're sharing, I think for the first 55 minutes, she pretty much spoke. I asked for a little clarification, and then I asked for greater clarification. And then it's like, do I have permission to give you feedback? And also I asked her, I ask everybody, but I asked her today, because I knew she needed a longer call and she likes to do long calls. I asked her, what do you want and need from me today? And it gave her a moment, right? This is after she shared for like the 55 minutes, right? It's saying, what do you want and need from me? Because I could go in 20 different directions, but what if that's not what she wants and needs? And it gives a person the opportunity to check in with themselves and say, this is what I want and need. So if you want to help anyone, please ask them what they want and need. Please ask them in what order. Please ask permission to give feedback. And then be okay if they're not receptive to implementing whatever you said, because our job is to be there for someone. And I find, and this has happened with, I think, all of my coaching clients, there's a time for planting the seed. There's a time for watering the seed. And there's a time when it becomes a tree. And there's a time when you get fruits on the tree. It doesn't happen in an instant. So there are many things that I've told many of my coaching clients on a coaching call 6 months ago, 8 months ago, a year ago, 4 years ago, and then they're implementing that. So a lot of times you look at it as just like planting seeds and give them the best seeds possible, give them love and acceptance. I also think if you want to give feedback, it is so important to give feedback to someone who actually wants it and to someone who's going to be accountable to want to change their life. The one thing that I hate doing, and maybe this is my shortcoming, but I hate wasting my time giving feedback to someone who has no intention to change. And that I find really aggravating and insulting. So if someone is stuck in a cycle of learned self-helplessness and they don't want to help themselves, I advocate for not wasting your time with them. and only saying, hey, I would love to help you, but we've been through this rigmarole 82 times. I've given you my feedback many, many times. You have chosen to disregard my feedback. I respect you and your process. I respect myself and my time. And unfortunately, we're at an impasse because I'm not able to contribute to you in a meaningful way that will help you change your behavior. So this way you can help someone, but for the love of God, never sacrifice yourself to help someone who doesn't want to be helped.
In today's fast-paced world, how can we build resilience and to better handle stressful situations?
With me?
Yes.
Okay, how could you be more
This question
adaptable?
and then one more question. then
Sure.
we're out.
How could you be more adaptable and more resilient? Well, first of all, empty your cup. I'm all about the emptying the cup thing because that's like the majority of the issue is a cup is too full.
Right.
Then also, you've already been, if you're alive, you've been adaptable and you've been resilient. So really double down on where have you been resilient in your life, and then maybe make a list of what are the other areas that you want to be more resilient in and who can help you. So go to your team leader, go to your manager, go to YouTube if you don't have anyone. Find other people who've traveled the path. You can borrow their energy, you could borrow their resilience. With everybody speaking on the panel, I could feel your energy coming through, and especially when Bridgette was speaking, like her energy, her vibrancy, her love, her excitement for the workout, it was infectious. And so sometimes we can borrow resilience and adaptability from other people. Listening to stories like his story of triumph, I'm sure all of you have had stories of triumph, and then recognizing, giving yourself permission to look at the triumph that you've had. What are all the adversities that you've already conquered? And so many times in our lives we keep fixating on what's wrong and what's missing. We don't look at all the things that we have done that even impress ourselves if we actually took a moment to look at it and to take an inventory of all the gifts that we've given ourselves and given other people.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last but not least, what are some self-care practices that you recommend for reducing stress and promoting overall well-being?
Oh, sure. So number one, mindfulness. Mindfulness means just be in the present moment. So it means don't be fixated with what happened yesterday, last week. Don't go in the past, what your mom did, what your dad did, what they didn't do. Mindfulness, be in the present moment. Number two, meditation, whatever meditation is for you. For me, journaling is meditative. So I'm not one to sit there and quote unquote meditate, but journaling is the most meditative thing for me. So mindfulness, meditation, you could do journaling, visualization if you're going into a meeting or if you want to work with higher price point clients or if you want to multiply your income or have better social skills, whatever your goal is, visualize that, like play the scene in your head. Another thing, number 5, would be affirmations. What are some affirmations that you can tell yourself? And I'm not a fan of 500 affirmations. Pick one and literally brainwash yourself to believe that one thing. And if you brainwash yourself to believe that one thing, you don't even need the second affirmation if you pick the correct affirmation. And the correct affirmation is whatever your higher power is telling you in that moment. So it's not about going to a book and borrowing someone else's affirmation, because people are like, what do you say? What I say has nothing to do with what's right for you. What's right for you will be communicated to you from your higher power. So affirmations are great. I also think another thing that you can do, like I like going for a walk around the block. If I'm really pissed off, either music will really help me. If I only have a few minutes between coaching calls and I'm having my own issues and I don't want to like transfer that to the client, then I'm like, okay, music. If I only have a few minutes, it's music. If I have a little bit more time, it's going literally walking around the block. Walking around the block, and then sometimes when I'm walking around the block, I'll look for 10 things that I can appreciate. So I'll count on my fingers, like, okay, I appreciate her dress, I appreciate that tree, I appreciate the sunlight, I appreciate the sky. But by the time I'm focusing on 10 things that I appreciate and I walk around the block, when I come back, I'm in a different state, and the whole goal is to change your state. So that's something you can do. Another thing you could do to manage your stress is to look at what you're prioritizing. Are you prioritizing the right things in the right order? Are you having healthy boundaries? Saying no to people, saying yes to yourself. The healthy boundaries and the priorities are really important. Time management can help with stress. So I like to triage. I come from a medical background, as you mentioned. I worked in medicine for many years. And so when I was working in the ER, you triage the patient. So if someone has a gunshot wound, they get your attention more than someone who has a paper cut. a lot of times in life, people think that, as you mentioned, everything is urgent now. Triage your life. What is the number one priority for today? What's the number one priority for this week? What's the number one priority for this month? What's the number one priority for this quarter? And then pay attention to that. And nobody can do everything, especially if you have a big life. I mean, I don't know how people do it with kids, guys. I have no kids. I just have cats, and I'm like, it's overwhelming. Just to manage myself, it's overwhelming. To manage all my clients is overwhelming. Manage my schedule, it's overwhelming. There's a lot of demand on everybody. And so God bless all of you who have kids. I don't know how you do it, but God bless you. So I think find all those things with time management, and then have a hobby, have something that makes you happy. If you just need to, and I learned to give myself permission to do this, because before I thought it was ineffective and it was inefficient. Netflix and chill if you need to. It's okay. You can watch dumb TV for a few minutes. If that's what recharges you, that's okay. I learned to give myself permission to take a nap. Sometimes all I need is a nap. And the nap is such a state separator, because if you're exhausted and you can't think straight, trying to like push through it, which is what I did through all my academics, right? With all the like different medical rotations that I had, like cardiothoracic surgery and biochemistry classes and general surgery, pediatric surgery, OBGYN surgery, plastic surgery, like all these different things. We just learn to push and push and push and push and like tolerate and just be in the OR for 8 hours. And then once you're in the operating room for 8 hours as a student and you think you're done and they've cross-examined you and your brain is about to blow out, then they're like, can you go to room 2 now? And it's like, no. Then there's like another whole surgery in that other room, and you can't eat, you can't pee, you can't do anything. So you just learn to tolerate. So just like give yourself permission to take a nap. Give yourself permission to call your mother, call your father, call whoever you love. Don't call them if you hate them. Like, just call the people who are going to literally support you and nourish you. I have a coach. I go to my coach. I do long sessions with her when I'm fucked in the head. She already knows. I'll text her and I'm like, do you have, the joke is like, do you have half an hour? Because it's never half an hour. And so if I need several hours for her to reset me, and she gets paid by the hour, and God bless her, she deserves every penny of it. If all I have to do is talk to her to get back to center so I can be at a level 10, 2.5 hours later, it's priceless. So find the right people who can help you, and find the right things that soothe you. So if walking with your dog soothes you, I love my cats. If that's like, I find that so soothing. People find it alarming, but I find it so soothing. I love them. So I can cuddle them and kiss them and hold them and mush them. And like that to me gives me sustenance. And that to me is like one representation of God. So it's whatever you need to do, but literally like take some time tonight. You heard from all these wonderful people what they're doing. Figure out what is the way for you to release your stress. And again, for me, one of the major ways is I will journal for pages and pages and pages and pages. And a lot of people are afraid to do that because they're like, what if somebody reads my notes? Fuck them. Like, who gives a shit, right? Like, who cares? Like, I would rather be free.
To read it anyway.
Yeah, right. But I would rather be free than have someone think well of me. Because when people thought well of me, I was their slave. And now I'm free. And so if you think I'm a whack job because I wrote down what I really wanted and what is really bothering me, then that's not my problem, right? You're not one of my people. So your tribe will support you. Your tribe will love you. Your tribe will hold you to a higher standard. Your tribe will grow with you. And your tribe will help you to release the stress that you're feeling, because everyone needs the love and support. And I think also I find this with like either moms or high-powered men where they feel like, I'm running this company, and blah, blah. It's like, dude, take a little time out, or mom, why take a little time out for yourself? Like, you don't have to save the world, save yourself. Save your sanity, honor yourself, put your oxygen mask on yourself. And if you need to even take a whole weekend, like people are like, I already took an hour. Like sometimes you need 2 hours. Sometimes you need, I had a client of mine yesterday, she's like, Vivace, I think I slept like 30 hours this weekend. This woman is a baller ass beast, right? She's fucking like running shit. So if she needs to sleep for 30 hours or whatever it was over the 3-day weekend, like good for her that's, but sometimes we don't give ourselves permission. And it's like, no, but I have to get up. I have to do this. You don't have to do any of it. And then I also like love what Bridgette is saying with working out. I think it's really, for me, it's really effective. It helps me to just regulate my emotions, to just like chill the fuck out a little bit.
Amazing. Well, thank you everyone for coming.
Yes. Thank you for having, can we give
Thank
a
you.
gratitude to Hila and the agency? Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Feel free to stick around and chat a little bit if you have time. We have some wine and snacks and water.
And can I do like a public service message
Yes,
for Barak?
please.
Barak, I love that you were her client, and what I would love even more is if all your Google friends who are being moved to New York or anywhere in the world, that if you could please refer them to Hila so she can get either take care of them or get a referral fee, even if they're moving to San Francisco or anywhere in the world.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it would be
Yeah.
really, really helpful, and it'll make her more rich.
I'm in.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Great job.
High five. Boom. Boom.
Great job. Beautiful.